You're listening to Some Like It Pop, a weekly podcast where we, the PopCrush editors, take a look at the latest in pop culture. I'm Bradley Stern, the editor-in-chief of PopCrush.
I'm Samantha Vincenti, the managing editor of PopCrush.
I'm Ali Zubiak, the associate editor of PopCrush.
And I'm Matt Donnelly, and I'm a senior writer at PopCrush.
Today, we are discussing the only thing that seems to matter right now at the moment, which is lemonade.
What's that?
It is a drink, and that's what we're going to talk about specifically. We're also going to talk a little later on. We have a chat with Brendon Urie from Panic at the Disco. He came by, and we made Yummy Nummies together. And
That's not a euphemism. You should probably explain
not a euphemism.
what
Sadly,
that is to the uninitiated.
So that segment will be revealed later on PopCrush's YouTube, which please subscribe, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's Yummy Nummies are a Japanese fad of tiny snacks that you prepare in tiny trays and eat. And the results are not usually very good. But you'll find out if we liked our cheeseburger and fries later in this segment.
Is that a testament to your preparation of them, or is that just the food in general?
I have a feeling it was the powder
Well, I
that
just
we
wanna
mixed
make that
together
clear.
into water. Anyway,
They do like a tiny shrimp tempura on the internet on YouTube. That
pretty
is
good.
almost certainly not from a Yummy Nummies box. They probably don't sell shrimp.
no.
in it, but
Yeah.
it
There is a
looks amazing.
sushi one, which I did not want to explore.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oh, you should have done that.
I
I
can't even
know.
make real
It
sushi.
looked really
You
good.
chose meat anyway.
We chose
for some
meat.
reason.
From powder. Yeah. Great. But so speaking of mixing things with water, just like lemonade,
Oh, boy.
today we are going to discuss lemonade, but we're not going to discuss maybe the meaning so much of the songs because that seems to land people in hot water. And
No.
also it's like a lot of those songs are open for interpretation and
Right. Although
just-
I did want to mention, if people are looking for a deeper meaning, I read a really good article on Fusion called What to Read After Watching Beyonce's Lemonade, and it's a reading list of Black women writers like Alice Walker and Zora Neale Hurston and more that I mostly hadn't heard of, although not all. And of course, like the poet who was responsible for a lot of the talking in between the videos.
the interludes,
that
right?
People read the hell into.
Yeah.
I mean, rightly so, but...
Not everyone knew those were poems, and
Right.
you know,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
there's
butcher her. Do you know how to pronounce her name?
Worson Shire?
Right.
I don't know. She was really big on Tumblr, so I feel like Beyonce probably has one.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool that you said that because my first impression upon watching it was how it registered so clearly to me, like the same way a novel did, especially like a stream of consciousness type. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of cool that you said that. And I will look forward to reading this.
Yeah, she's got, I guess she was like London's first young poet laureate, so she's definitely legit beyond
awesome.
having Beyonce's thumbs up,
Yeah.
which is,
There are layers to both the music and the visual that I think will continue to be unpacked. But, you know, before making any rush assumptions about the lyrics, I think it's important to let's dissect. So let's talk about how she unveiled Lemonade this time. She did it sort of a semi-surprise. She said something is coming called Lemonade a week in advance, and then everyone angrily subscribed to HBO Now or found a Brazilian stream. And I won't say I did, but
No.
I did.
Piracy.
Yeah. And then, you know, she had everyone tune in at 9 p.m. and then dropped the album immediately after it aired. Do you think that she had the same culture-shaking effect as Beyonce self-titled 2013?
because of the content, yes, I do. In terms of like mind exploding because it's a surprise album, no.
Yeah.
But because of especially the Jay-Z angle and because it was so amazing and cohesive, whereas the last one was standalone pieces, I do feel like that. But at this point, I want everyone to just drop an album. Give me a week's notice. I shouldn't, I mean, maybe that's crazy as someone who fabricates content for the internet, but
Right.
I'm just no lyric videos, no snippets. Just give me the album. Give me like a week's notice. I'm good.
I agree to a certain extent, but I also feel like there's sort of a joy that comes with for fans in anticipating an album's release and sort of like getting in touch with the community and, you know, looking back at old stuff and reading some new interviews and things like that. But I am sort of the same mind that, like, as soon as I saw it, like, that irritation sort of just dissipated because of how good it was and how immediately it impressed on me. And it was just kind of funny because I feel like for someone whose roots are so in line with commercialism, like Destiny's Child and her earlier stuff, it's so clear now that she's just like almost like an avant-garde artist. Like, she just sort of does what she wants to do and is more concerned with art than anything. And I feel like that's been, like, really cemented with this project.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one criticism I've heard, I should preface this by saying, like, I can't think of a single bad thing to say about Beyonce, and I've just been in love with her since the moment I heard No, 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 and
Sam has no bias whatsoever.
I didn't cave and buy. When she came into my life, I was at a point where I was discovering indie music and had kind of, like, sworn off pop, and then I heard No, 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 and then I didn't cave until the second album, Writings on the Wall, but that was one of the first pop albums I had bought in years and years. And I just, yeah, but she has, to Matt's point, like, gone through this evolution from obviously girl group member to really amazing pop artist, and then now, yeah, just point blank artist for sure. And the criticism I've heard has been, like, or one I've heard is that some of the songs don't stand on their own without the accompanying visual, which I don't feel at all, except for maybe Sandcastles, because by that point when Jay-Z showed up, I was like, I don't want to see you, get out of here. But then I just wanted to, like, throw food at him. But then also I just felt like I'm not, as you guys know, a ballad fan generally, and I just felt like it was like a sleepy piano ballad that was kind of a step back compared to
That was the one I did not like also.
Oh, that surprises me, Matt, because I feel like you do love a ballad.
I do, but I feel like it was such a jarring, like, bit of discord with everything else that seemed to flow so beautifully. And then it was just like, here's a thing that has been done a million times out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I get that it had to be like a bridge to the healing part of it, but
that stood out to me, that song, because of the way she was singing and how she was kind of, like, screaming and imperfect, because she was kind of, like, emotionally crying through it.
Her voice.
Her voice is, like,
that's true.
kind of insane in that song. And I thought that was interesting because as somebody who was always, you know, criticized and hailed as being perfect, it was a very, like, uneven song almost. The way she was singing it was kind of broken. I thought that was kind of interesting. But yes, I was mostly confused / mad / feeling things when Jay-Z showed up, because then it was like, oh, this just got real personal, and now he's directly involved in this. Something that related to the emotions of the songs that she's gotten criticism for, or some people have defended, is the fact that she enlists a small army for her albums of songwriters, producers, creative collaborators, everything like that. Do you think that takes away from the art, or because as a Britney fan, I, you know, have obviously had to stand up against people who say, you know, oh, she doesn't write her music, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, there are like 20 writers on some of these songs, or between the samples and everything like that. Do you think that takes away from her message? Do you think she's involved in it? What do you think about all that?
Yeah, not remotely. And I mean, and I feel like, well, not only have it's so interesting to me because there's such an increased interest because it's Beyonce that people have been poring over all the contributors, and that some of them are so seemingly left field, like Father John Misty or like Animal Collective, and then it turned out that was just one lyric that they were just covering their bases.
Same with Yeah, Yes.
Right. Well, that one was on purpose, but I guess like in retrospect, they realized they'd kind of done a similar lyric to My Girls from Animal Collective, so they just decided to like cover their bases.
Which is interesting in itself.
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of this kind of, I mean, it sounds like, to hear all the mythology behind it now, it sounds like some of these songs were kind of Frankenstein together, and people who are unfamiliar with the way a lot of pop gets made might not realize that's how a certain amount of pop gets made.
Yeah.
And also, the thing that really messes me up about that is that it's completely gender skewed, because look at the liner notes for Kanye's last two albums. There's like 4 to 6 producers on almost every song. And people are always like, well, he's the maestro, he's the conductor of the brilliance. But then they're going to act like it just happened to Beyonce.
Right.
No.
And it also, just from creatively, it doesn't matter to me at all, because her narrative was so clear to me. Like, someone would not be able to have performed all of that with the conviction that she did if she didn't know what she was talking about. Like, maybe every chord wasn't hers, maybe every word wasn't hers, but the story was entirely hers, and that was clear from watching it the whole way through. I mean, there wasn't a point at which I was like, I don't really know what she's trying to go for here. I mean, it was very, very, very clear.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Sia even said in her Rolling Stone article that Beyonce is very involved, and she goes from room to room where each of the writers and producers are, and she kind of, it's like Frankenstein, like you said. I think Sia literally said
She did.
those. Yeah,
really?
She said
She did.
that. Yeah.
Sorry, Sia.
Yeah.
I mean, Beyonce's clearly involved. I think she gets a lot of flack for trying to claim a writing credit on
Yeah.
songs that she has not written. Like You Ought to Know, there was that whole thing, and then
Right.
Ave Maria, she tried to, you know. So that I understand.
Look, she had her reasons, Allie.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And the thing is, even if she did say she didn't have a single, hand in the technical production of it, as long as she knows what she wants to say, and if you have the resources, why not get the help to see the image through that you want to see? Instead of, there are plenty of other pop albums right now that, people have the best people out there, and, it's completely discordant from one song to the next. And, having the best people is valuable if you know what you want to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. And I think it's maybe cynical, but I think her writing credits almost always are business matters, where she can ensure that she's getting those songwriting royalties for usage of her songs or anything like that when the song takes off inevitably or something. I think because the publishing rights, you get more money if your name is on it like that.
Which is akin to like the person who leads a really popular TV show getting an EP credit by like a certain season.
Yes.
To keep them there.
Totally. Yeah. So I certainly don't have a problem with how much or how little, I guess, that she's involved. I think it's very clear, though, that she has a very specific narrative she was trying to tell with this album, especially more so than the last one, which was, I think, about, actually, it was more sexual. It was about like empowerment as, owning her sexuality and feminism. And this one was really a much more personal, narrow story, I thought. But it also incorporates a lot of social justice themes that are kind of not addressed so much in the music, but the visual,
Yeah.
which I think is really interesting as well.
Which again, we're not going to unpack.
Which we're not going to
Google
unpack.
it, you guys. Seriously, Google good hair, because the line Becky with the good hair
Yeah.
is getting so misinterpreted. And one of my biggest takeaways is that people didn't know what Becky meant on the internet
Right.
until this week.
I also hate that the whole hour long has been reduced to this one
Yeah.
word
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
one line. It's so infuriating.
Right.
Right.
Like, people who haven't even watched this thing are weighing in on this one lyric and making all these inferences about it, and it's just so stupid.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is it's caused a ripple effect now, of course, because this is the internet, where this album has now become a bit of a witch hunt for Becky. This maybe one person that people are collecting clues about, which is a very interesting aftershock from this album. Right now, Rita Ora had to release didn't have to, but she did release.
She may have volunteered.
She certainly volunteered to say it's not her. Becky G, importantly, also said it's not her.
But in a cute, funny way.
In a cute, funny
And
way.
I hate that it informed the way I saw the moment, because I did read it before I watched the full thing. And I was looking at it, I was like, when's it coming? Oh, now it's here. And it's just like, I think I would have looked at it differently if I hadn't had all these swirling thoughts in my head about it.
Definitely.
I definitely,
didn't
when I
think of it.
heard it, I was like, what? And I thought it was a white woman, because Becky.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I thought, I did go to Twitter and I typed in the phrase after I was done watching the second time. I did. People were saying Gwyneth Paltrow. They were saying Mariah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
I mean, I thought
Yeah.
of Taylor immediately, obviously. 'Cause
Right,
No,
but-
it's Becky. And she epitomizes Becky anyway.
I just
but-
mean, like, to me, it seemed, if I hadn't heard that, I would have thought that it was just something conceptual more than, like, a specific person.
And I think it is.
I think it is too.
But unfortunately, I don't know about Rita Ora, but I do feel like
Nobody
I
knows.
just don't know
Funnily
about her.
enough, nobody
End of
knows about
sentence.
Rita Ora. So
No, I do think, unfortunately, Rachel Roy, whether or not she did cheat with Jay-Z, I have no idea. She is like the Warren Beatty of our time, and that she will be going to her grave as the person that song was about,
yeah, absolutely.
which is
/ also Rachel Ray, unfortunately.
Yeah, poor
A very
Rachel Ray.
unfortunate misfire in that attack. Yeah, so the biggest one out of the whole Becky scandal was Rachel Roy, who released a statement this morning saying that it was, well, did she say specifically it's not me?
She said she respects marriage.
She respects marriage. She
Strength.
respects Beyonce, and she hates bullying.
So it was enough to keep intrigue, but enough
Yeah.
where she thought she could shrug
And
it
that's
off.
also part of the problem is not
don't
that
want
it's
to-
a problem, but I don't think anybody has directly said it's not me, except if they were kidding.
Right.
But the ones that were maybe the most persecuted were just like, well, I love
If you
Beyonce.
really wanted the limelight off you, you would say, it wasn't
Yeah.
me, and that would be that.
Yeah.
But she was like,
Yeah.
no, not really.
So that's left. I don't know if that was, if they knew that that was what was going to happen immediately after the album, and maybe take away from the other content of the music.
yeah,
but
it should
that's
not be the
certainly-
legacy.
It's certainly at least the short-term legacy of the album.
Right.
And I think also interesting is the fact, like we're doing now, is that people are less eager to jump on an immediate review of the album. Certainly people are kind of shying away from the implications and Black culture and things like that they don't want to read into without really having a good knowledge of that. But do we think this is kind of a trend that's going to happen more and more? Same with anti-Rihanna. Like, people took some time to digest that, except for me.
I
But-
would like to think so, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
Just because of the overarching pressure in the digital realm to churn out your hot take immediately. I do find it absurd personally that we're turning out any review of any album overnight, but especially something as massive as this.
Yeah.
I tried to read one review and I was like, it's been like 2 days.
Yeah.
I don't care about anyone's opinion
Right.
but mine and my friends. So I would like to think so, but
Yeah, Sam, I agree with you. I think that, I mean, I'm biased because this is our job and this is what we have to do, but I think it's unfair to ask of anybody reasonably to make an opinion, not only about the album, but where it lies in context of their career, especially because you look at things like Madonna's Erotica, which was such a divisive album at the time, and everyone hated her for being very overtly sexual, all of that stuff. And now it's looked on as like an underrated gem and, you know, an important part of her legacy. And I think that you kind of need that distance to really assess what the album means. You know, it could be, especially with a surprise album or a semi-surprise album, you're kind of so like amazed by the shock of it that you don't really have time to kind of sit down and get, oh, is this music actually good? Is this actually like something I will continue listening to after a week? Or am I just so amazed by the blast of promo and all of that?
I am interested from a reader to read these types of things when they go up, but I think when you have to do it at such like an accelerated rate, it's more important now than ever for sites and for, you know, different sources to just like stay in your lane. Like, if you're a pop site, you know, write about the pop context. If you're a culture site, you know, readers are smart enough to know where to go to read certain things. And I think, you know, sites just have to consistently write what they're supposed to be writing and what they know to write.
yeah. And the closer I am to loving an artist, the less likely I am to read any old review. I'm more likely to just read, like, I'm waiting for Roxanne Gay's review in Spin, which I don't think is out yet, but that's one that I'm definitely going to check out. Otherwise, I'm not that curious.
Yeah, totally.
That I definitely agree with. Yeah, when Britney drops an album, I'm not checking anybody. Well, I'm writing my review, and then I'm not looking at anyone else's opinion. I will in time and then be outraged, but that's true. When it's your favorite, I feel like you really do not care what other people think. It's the artist that you're like have a curiosity for. Like, if you didn't know Zayn from One Direction, but you knew this boy bander was the first of the group to go solo, and you might be like, oh, but was it good? Like, I think people would be inclined to click that. But
See, I prefer to read reviews when it's people I really love.
really,
Yeah, because when you get,
because you're a masochist.
well, a little bit actually, because when I read stuff and people are like, oh, this was a great album, it kind of makes me feel better. It's like, okay, I have good taste, you know, kind of thing.
But what happens when it's negative?
Then that person has bad taste. I
Oh,
don't know.
okay, all right, yeah.
See,
so I can
I think
see
we've
that
all
being-
been on both sides of that.
right. Yeah.
If I love something, I don't necessarily need a writer to like corroborate that. I just
Yeah.
need to know that there's someone who understands the artist the same way that I do and like can put things into context. So like it wouldn't bother me if I loved Beyonce. It wouldn't necessarily bother me if someone said something negative about this, as long as I knew historically that they sort of like knew what they were talking about when it came to her.
I kind of need the corroborating a little bit. But, I mean, yeah, I do like...
Because it's important to know that, you know, it's impossible for any musician to be perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, all right. That really struck a chord here.
No, I agree. I think that I just don't think that good reviews do much for me with artists I really love already, because I'm just like, yeah, I know. Yeah, iconic, legendary, slay. I don't know. But then again, this is what we do, so I think sometimes that my perception of reviews is a little different than somebody who is reading the review.
Yeah, totally. You look at it differently.
Yeah. But
I do love reading negative reviews of things that I like.
Yeah, me too.
I love reading it.
Yeah.
Because it makes me so angry, like my blood starts to boil, but that elicits a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Negative reviews of albums that are like a decade old are really incredible. There's this amazing headline where it's like 2005, and they said Beyoncé will never be the new Ashanti.
Right.
It was incredible, and it's amazing. These things are set in stone.
Especially for historically heralded albums. Like I remember I was writing that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing last week, and Jagged Little Pill, now in history is like an untouchable album. But when you look back at some initial reviews, they were not always so favorable.
Yeah, I think it was like Robert Christgau, like essentially, dismissed it as just a silly album about boys.
Right.
Yeah. In Rolling Stone, they said Baby One More Time was a one-hit wonder, and when you're at a karaoke place in 20 years, you'll remember that one girl with that one song. Like that's how they ended their profile of her. And it's things that like that I love to discover in time. Mm-hmm. But that's also the danger, because I'm worried that, and I'm definitely going down for that sometimes. Like I've been so completely wrong about albums. I'd like to think I'm more right than wrong, but I think the nature of this is to have a quick opinion, and then sometimes it goes down terribly, as with my anti-review, which I would like to publicly
retract
on the record. Not entirely retract, because I think I had a right to be mad at the time that it wasn't the music I wanted to hear, but it is good music, which I think I was unfair in saying it wasn't good music. It is good music. It just wasn't the Rihanna that you've known for 7 albums.
But I don't think you said it wasn't good music. I think you were very clear that it was not the pop artist that you were expecting.
Yeah, you were disappointed.
Yeah.
Which is valid. Your feelings were valid in that moment.
I just don't want Rihanna to be mad at me.
I don't think any writer should feel guilty about having an unpopular opinion. Art by nature is subjective, and I think if everyone had the same opinion about every album, I mean, it's impossible unless you're sort of waiting to see what other people say. You can't possibly be on the same page every single time.
Well, that's the danger of the internet these days, because you have to be relatable and likable and get those likes and clicks and faves, or else you are buried. And that's this whole culture of, I think, not to really get into it, but I think that's why certain artists have risen in this new culture of, oh my God, she's just like me. Oh my God, LOL, awkward. I mean, that's not to name any names, Taylor Swift, but I think that's exactly why some artists are now in favor, is this internet culture of likability. But there's been a lot of really thoughtful essays about that lately, about how being positive and inspirational Mimi is going to get you more followers and things like that. And so then it becomes, okay, the Perez Hilton culture of being mean and shady went away because that was not in favor anymore, and that doesn't exist anymore. And now it's every review of something is glowy and positive.
Especially when, readers and Twitter users can sort of construct their own realities based on what they want to read or what they pretend is the reality of the situation. You can ignore 99 things if you want, and then read one thing that's different and say that, that's the favorable opinion, or the popular opinion, I mean.
Mm-hmm. But then the flip side of what you're saying is, if you do make the internet mad at you and make Twitter mad at you, it's the worst feeling in the entire world.
It's the worst feeling. It's
check
not worth
mentions.
it most of the time, unless you're like so confident in what you're saying. And even if when you are, it's still not worth it usually to, if I don't love Taylor Swift's latest single, it's not worth it for me to shout about it, because it doesn't really serve me anything, just to like further prove to the public I don't like it. But then the attack of people is just like, okay, the good does not outweigh the bad. And
I don't know. I think you have to keep people honest. I think it's important. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying you should live and die by every battle in this way, but I don't know. I don't think you should ever.
But you didn't have Allie's mentions when she ranked every single One Direction song.
No, but that
Allie's
was worth it. I got so much
completely
hate.
incredible.
Everyone was wrong except me.
there is kind of a sick pleasure to that, to be fair, in getting that hate, because you're kind of like, you're so mad about this, and it's kind of embarrassing on their part. So I get rattling the cage sometimes, for sure.
I just don't look and close my
And
eyes.
sometimes I empathize with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I wrote something about a CW show and got angry mentions about Arrow.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I like your passion.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that comes with the territory. If we were writing, innocuous stuff, we wouldn't be doing this.
That's true.
Right on the edge.
Right on the edge, always.
Find some buttons, I'm going to push them.
Cool. Well, I think that's about it for today. Okay, we're going to go now to our conversation with Brendon Urie of Panic at the Disco. We had a little conversation about being the last man standing in the band, and talked about going on tour with Weezer.
Hello, I'm Brendon from Panic at the Disco.
Today we did something a little different than our usual. We cooked Yummy Nummies together. We made burgers.
We made we can call it a burger. Yeah, it was interesting, man.
Yeah, how would you describe the taste to our radio listeners?
Sciencey. It was like, I mean, there were parts before we put them in the microwave that kind of resembled and smelled like Play-Doh. Mm-hmm. Then once we got them back, the 15 seconds in the microwave had kind of transformed them into, God, you know what? It's unlike anything I've ever had. I can't even describe it, dude. It was so crazy.
Highly recommend everyone go out and get some.
Try some Yummy Nummies.
Yourself. Yeah. So we were talking about this a little bit. You were just at Coachella 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. You magically appeared on stage.
That was Halsey. It was crazy, man. That was really cool. What an honor.
Tell us about being on stage and how that happened, really.
Yeah, that happened. I mean, I had, covered a Halsey song, like, I don't even know, maybe now a year ago, just for fun, just doing it because I'm a fan of hers. So she contacted me on Twitter, and we just started tweeting each other just back and forth. Then we got in contact with our managements, and then just last month she asked if I wanted to be a part of her Coachella performance. So of course I said yeah, that sounded great. So I did a little bit of her song New Americana, and then we both covered Panic's song I Write Sins Not Tragedies, and that was phenomenal. It was so
awesome.
much fun. Yeah,
it looked like a lot of fun.
It was great. She has great production, great live show. She's an awesome performer.
Yeah.
Did
you guys get to hang out at like before or after it all, or?
Yeah. We got to a little bit before. I mean, like, I always know before a show, I just want to be in my own mind and like get ready for the show. So I didn't really bug her before. I just kind of said hey and stuff. And then afterwards, we had a few drinks and just kind of hung out and we listened, watching Ice Cube and Guns N' Roses, and it was great, man. It was a good hang. She's fun.
Yeah. She recently came in and she did an interview with us just about a year ago, and then
cool.
From there she just took off.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, she's everywhere now. It's crazy.
Yeah, she is. So, and you're also heading out. You're heading out on the road shortly.
Yeah,
right?
Getting ready for summer tour with Weezer, it's still weird to say until like the day comes that the tour starts. I feel like it's gonna be strange because I actually just did like an hour-long interview with Rivers for another thing, and I recorded it on my phone just to have. Mm-hmm. And so I have Rivers on my phone, like just speaking as quiet as a mouse about things I would just ask him about, writing and production and tour. And we started talking about collaboration ideas. So what I want to do is kind of in the vein of how Queen and David Bowie did Under Pressure. I want to do something like that where we both cover a song or we come up with a song, but it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be crazy. Yeah.
What do you think the crowd's going to be like? Because I saw you guys open for Fall Out Boy like during the Save Rock and Roll tour.
Oh yeah, that was
fun. And I was looking around and I was mostly expecting people my age because, I grew up listening to you guys.
Sure, yeah.
But I looked around and there were a bunch of young teenagers there. So they're like rediscovering you, and I feel like Weezer's crowd is a little older.
Yeah.
So
I think it'll be cool. Like I'm pretty sure it's going to be split because their fans are so dedicated, same as ours, And I've noticed over the years with our fans, with Panic fans, it's more on both ends of the spectrum. It's younger and it's older. I've talked to a couple grandparents that are like, I love your music. You're so nice. You're a nice gentleman. You dress so smart, in your suits. And then I've met a lot of younger fans. A lot of younger fans are coming out. There's always the staple fans that have been there since the beginning, which is great. Very familiar to see their faces. Makes me feel warm. But it's so awesome to see just an even broader, diverse crowd come out. It's so crazy, man. You never know what's going to happen. But I'm really hoping for Panic and for me personally to to play to more Weezer fans so that I can win more people over. That's my favorite thing to do, is play festivals where people don't even know my band or haven't given me a chance to. This is my chance to prove myself and show you what I'm all about. I love that. Yeah.
Now, does Rivers know that you were creepily recording him and like fanboying the whole time?
I was, yeah. No, I recorded him going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
He recorded on his phone too. So like we both did, just in case we missed something on each phone. So we were both recording each other just to have. So there's a recording somewhere of he and I talking on his phone. But yeah, it was fun, man. We kind of got to sit there. It was the alternative to being like grilled for an hour. He would rather, he was like, I'd rather just sit down and talk with Brendon. We'll just sit down and have a little conversation about like what our hopes are for the tour. And since we'd already had that conversation like 3 times before, it just at bars hanging out, that it was pretty easy.
Yeah,
and
sounds more
it just
natural.
worked out. Exactly. Yeah, it was great.
Cool.
Is it weird being the last member standing at this point?
It's awesome.
Is it really?
Of course it is.
Do you prefer it to like the whole band thing?
Oh my God, yeah. I so prefer it. Well, it's funny because like before I joined the band, I was doing my own thing anyway. Mm-hmm. And so when I joined up, I had like songs that I had written and I showed them and they were like, oh, okay. So like you can do studio work and stuff. So then they, we used that to the best of our abilities, and I would just go in, produce a track or write a thing, and I was playing all the instruments, all that stuff. So I was really just getting back to my roots. It was like how I taught myself. I taught myself this instrument and that instrument. So I was jumping around. Anytime I got bored on vocals, I'd jump to drums and vice versa, and just, all
So
that
there was
stuff.
no weird transition phase, because you were in a band for what was like 10 years?
I mean,
maybe?
the 4 of us were only in a band for like 2.5, 3 years at the most.
Oh, all of you together.
Yeah, maybe 4 years at the most. But at that point, like from the split, I did what I always do, and I just kept writing. It's just that I had to take less opinions from people, and that's, it sounds so crappy, but like, dude, it's so awesome. Like, I love it. I don't have to, sit there and compromise opinions and like, well, I want my song to be heard. Well, I don't want your song to be heard. You know what I mean? It's like, now any idea I have, I just get to do. It's awesome.
That's cool.
I love it. I love being alone.
Yeah, it's interesting because like even just, I don't want to call you a solo artist, but I guess that's what you are.
It's pretty true, though. It wouldn't be offensive or it wouldn't be, wrong. It's true, yeah.
But I feel like the music still sounds very true to the whole Panic sound.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I like to think so. I have had a huge part in every album that we've made from the beginning. There were songs from the first album to now that would have never gotten made if I hadn't had some jazz background or some musical theory background. Mm-hmm. So that's always been consistent, and my passion for it's never changed. If anything, it's grown. So I just wanted to, reflect my my attitude towards music, which is the passion that I have for it, and the chance to just do something that I've never done. That's so exciting. I can't put it into words. It's so awesome.
Now, are you writing, even though you just put out an album? Are you still writing? Are you the type of person who writes on tour and that inspires you?
Yeah, all the time. I'm always writing. There's like, God, I've got hard drives of stuff that will never see the light of day, but some stuff that, I might go back to in a year from now, or maybe even a month from now, and look back and be like, oh yeah, I can repurpose that idea, or I can reinvent that lyric, or, make it personal to what I'm going through now. Which makes it easier. I don't have to sit there and start with a clean slate or just a blank slate. It's fun. I'm always writing. Even today I woke up in the hotel and I was singing in the shower, and I was like, don't forget this. So I got out before even drying off. I'm just naked. I'm just running around with my phone. Rah, rah, rah! I'm singing like melodies and stuff. So yeah, I'm always doing something just to get that creative energy out.
That sounds like a hit in the making.
Yeah, it's called Yeah Yeah Yeah. I am Lord. Yeah Yeah Yeah.
Exclusive. Nice.
Cool.
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Some Like It Pop. For more, visit us at popcrush.com. Subscribe to us on YouTube at PopCrush Music, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Signing off, this is Bradley Stern.
Samantha Vincenti.
Ali Zubiak.
Matt Donnelly.
Bye.
See ya.